digits.
I'll take that all day, dude.
Hey everybody, I'm Christian from K&N, and today we're here at the K&N Development Center with my good friend and intake expert, Bert.
How you doing?
Together, we're gonna be putting these 3 very popular styled intakes for this Silverado to the test to see who comes out on top. Let the shootout begin. Hey Bert, so what are we doing today?
As you can see, we've got 3 different intake designs here. We got our traditional open air competitor style intake, then we got a competitor closed air box, and then we have our next gen intake that we just came out with.
What are the tests that we're gonna perform today?
We're gonna do an airflow test. The airflow test is gonna show you what the max CFM is. Second, we're gonna do a dyno test, and that's gonna show you where max horsepower is. And then third, we're gonna do some real world testing on the drag strip.
Does K&N have specific protocols that we run each time when we're doing those tests?
So each test that we do is identical, so we can overlay the numbers, look what's happening, and then you can do your comparisons.
Okay, cool, so where should we start?
Let's start on the flow bench. So obviously the more air you get, the more power you make, right? But that's up to a certain point. Sometimes if you get an intake that flows way too much air and it's outside of the MAF reading, you're gonna have drivability issues, check engine lights, and you have all kinds of different issues. So you really gotta watch what the flow bench is telling you and how the MAF is reading it.
Okay, well, it looks like you've got the stock intake set up. Maybe we should start running some tests?
So you can see the stock intake flowed 155 CFM. It terminated at 15 inches of water and it flowed 527. But a lot of this is because of the restriction of this intake, right? Once you get our intakes on here and whatnot, you'll start seeing those numbers make a big change. As you can see, at 1.5 inches, our intake flowed 231, and then at 15 inches of water, it flowed 745 CFM. Big result.
All right, so I mean, it looks like it did better than stock, but not as well as in K&N NextGen.
Yeah, because the filter that's in this is a really big filter. It should flow, but when you restrict it and you put that big filter in a tight box, it's not gonna breathe.
Looked like this one did pretty well, better than the closed air box.
Yeah, down low, it didn't do as good as the enclosed air box, but up high, it did pretty good. It's CFM at 717. I don't think there's a whole lot of design in this. They just basically copy someone else's design.
We can see that these are the CFM numbers across all 4 kits.
Here it is in black and white, right? And that's how we go by. More power, more performance. So our goal is we want to get you the most horsepower gains on a factory tune.
Sounds like it's time to see how these CFM numbers convert to performance.
It's dyno time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna dyno the truck stock, right? And then we're gonna do 3 runs. And then after that, we're gonna put each intake on, and then we're gonna do the same 3 runs. So it's gonna be consistent, right? We're gonna use the same procedure over and over and over. We're gonna take the average number and use that and overlay and see where your gains are. The horsepower, the graph looks really, really clean. The torque looks really, really clean. So this is a good representation of what we've seen on a Chevy truck stock. So the next thing to do is we'll put our intake on it, go do the same 3 runs, and we'll take the average horsepower gain, and then we'll overlay it onto this.
Wow, so it looks like the K&N did pretty well then.
Yeah, it looked really good. We made 27 horsepower at 5,000 RPM. Max torque was 39 foot-pounds at 5,000 also. So we don't just want to see a peak number, we want to see a gain throughout the whole RPM range.
Okay, so then what would be the next steps then?
Put one of the competitors on, run it, and let's see what the results are.
It looks like the closed box made some decent power.
Yeah, what it looks like is at around 5,300 RPM, it made 17 horsepower and then 17 foot-pounds of torque.
It's pretty good, but it doesn't look like it did too well down low on the graph.
Yeah, if you look at the horsepower, you can see where it definitely is below the baseline, and then right around 4,300 RPM, that's when it started making its power. This kind of goes back to what we said earlier when we were flowing air filters. Just because you can flow this maximum CFM on an air filter doesn't mean that you're going to make maximum horsepower at the rear wheel of the vehicle.
It doesn't look like the Open-Airbox did too well.
Yeah, as you can see at 5,400, it made 6 horsepower and 6 foot-pounds of torque. Kind of something that you're going to expect when you buy an intake of that value. So what you can see is that all the dyno pulls that we did between our kit and the competitor's kits, right? So when you get one of our intake systems, you know, it has the dyno graph, and that's what you should expect to see.
So that's really cool that K&N provides this data. Okay, cool. Let's send this Silverado on the track and burn some rubber.
Let's do it. What we're gonna do is we're gonna test it stock, and then we're gonna test it with the 3 kits that we brought. Everything's gonna be consistent, right? We're gonna start at 1,500 RPM. When the light goes green, go down the track, record those numbers. And we're gonna do that with each kit. So what we're gonna look at is, you know, coolant temp, trans temp, inlet temp. Now, one thing to note, the drag strip we're using today is Verona Racetrack, and it's an 1/8 mile.
And I know you're a drag racer, and to keep you honest, we're not gonna tell you what intake we put in the car, so that this way, you're pedal to the metal no matter what.
Yeah, so I'm used to drag racing, right? And that's the only way I do race. You put the pedal down and you send it.
So you made it 10.34 seconds all the way to the end of the track at 72.6 miles per hour.
It was 10:35 and 73.
It was flying.
So that was 3 runs with the stock intake in there.
Yep. That's not bad for a stock truck.
Okay, so that's a solid baseline then.
Definitely we could work with.
Okay, great. Let's go get the numbers for the rest.
Yeah, Bert, if you shave off the ponytail, we might be a little bit more aerodynamic.
Shut up.
How'd that one feel, man?
It felt all right.
That was the closed air box.
Yeah, so looking at the 3 runs, it looked like on an average it went 1021 at 73 mile an hour. Not a bad improvement, you know, over stock.
How about we go get the next numbers?
Should make a power.
Definitely sounded better.
All right, so how did it feel?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
It sounded good too, didn't it?
It did. What do you think?
What kit's on it?
I'm not gonna tell you. Let's run it 2 more times. You could probably get into 9. Plug it again. 997 at 76 miles per hour.
Shut up. I think it was hauling ass.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was awesome. The K&N intake hit sub 10s.
You know, looking at the numbers, right? Basically, the average number that ran was a 998 at 75 mile an hour.
Right.
Huge improvement.
So how about we get the last intake on there and find out what that one can do?
Let's do it.
Second run on the new intake. Let's see how we can do.
That was the last and final run that we did with the open box.
Yeah, so looking at the 3 runs, it looks like it ran an average of 1024 at 72 mile an hour.
Okay, so I mean, pretty similar to the closed box. All right, Bert, well, that was a lot of fun, and we have a lot of data to unpack.
And as you go through and look at it and compare all the different intakes and whatnot, as you'll see, K&N came out on top.
So K&N came out on top. Can you explain why K&N is above the rest of our competitors?
Yeah, there's a few things. Obviously engineering, right? From the intake tube to the filter to the air box, that's one step, right? And then once you take those parts and you do your airflow testing and your horsepower testing, that's a second. Once you get that all together, that's why you come up with such a bitchin' intake.
All right, everybody, that concludes our intake shootout. If you want to step up to the best, go to KNfilters.com to find your application today. Thanks for watching.
Boom.
Guy.